Survivor Specialist Phil and Alexa are back with another one of our Season 40 winner retrospectives. And today we are joined by Erik Reichenbach, who is going to tell us all about Parvati Shallow and her win in Fans vs. Favorites, which is considered like one of the best wins, and how she's going to fare on this Season 40. Erik, thank you so much for joining us. I'm really excited to hear what your take is going to be on Parvati, because we've had you on the show before, but we didn't really get to talk much about Fans vs. Favorites itself.
Right. Well, thanks for having me, you guys. I'm excited to talk about this kind of stuff, but at the same time, a lot of Parvati's game, I feel like, was not shown to me and kind of was above me in a lot of respects. So I'll try my best to kind of give some insight on what I saw and what I experienced. So thank you guys for having me on. And I hope I don't crunch my ice in my iced coffee too much through the mic.
That's okay. I so far we haven't heard it yet. So, but okay. I think what could be really interesting about this, though, is a lot of the people that we've interviewed so far have been really closely aligned with the person who they were talking about.
Yeah.
And you're one of the first people who wasn't. And it could be kind of interesting to hear, like, because Parvati's game is always considered so, like, you know, she was so great at like being under the radar, but also controlling things, to kind of hear the perspective of somebody who was just on the outside looking in on that.
Right. So, like, and that's kind of why I didn't see a lot of her. I say I don't see a lot of her game. I didn't see a lot of it. When I watched the show on TV, when I watched Micronesia when it aired, I learned so much, and I had all kinds of people saying, like, why didn't you recognize that Parvati was a threat? Why didn't you guys recognize this? I think I did too late. I think my very last vote, my infamous tribal council, I voted for Parvati because I thought that she was a threat to win the game. So I realized it, well after when I should have. So, yeah, let's dive into it.
Mm-hmm. Let's dive into it.
So you said that most of the time you saw kind of the full scope of her game while watching it on TV. So in the moment, what was it like playing with her? I know you weren't closely aligned, but how did you view her as someone who was playing with her on the season?
So Parvati even says this herself in some of her interviews, that she was really mean, and she realizes that she was kind of like a bratty teenager in a way. And I saw her as kind of like a socialite. Like, I saw her as the popular girl at school in a lot of ways, where she was friends with every single girl. She had a connection with every single girl. I mean, she had the connection with James, obviously. She kind of was like, it was kind of like Mean Girls, really. It was kind of like she was the popular girl. She had very, very social relationships with everybody. I didn't have a relationship with her at all in terms of like a friendship. Like, it was kind of like we know we exist, and we regarded each other with, pleasantness. There was no negativity between us at all. But she just seemed like the popular girl. And I didn't really realize she was actually playing a game until, it gets down to there's only so many people left. And for some reason, she's still there. Well, the reason is because her game was completely hidden from me. I was completely outside her alliance. I didn't really know what was going on all the time. I think we had one conversation between us, just kind of asking, like, where are you from? I'm from here. I did this, like, very minimal. So, yeah.
So the really exciting strategy talk is what it sounds.
Negative.
Hard-hitting stuff.
Yeah.
No,
I was like a non-issue. Yeah.
Yeah. So in that season, she's coming across as kind of like the bratty socialite. How do you think now, though? We have not seen her play in 10 years, which is kind of crazy. She now has a kid. She now is married. Do you but people are still going to see her as the threatening Parvati that you saw on TV, and then what we all saw in Heroes versus Villains. Do you think that she's going to try to play the same way, or do you think Parvati's probably changed going out?
I think she's going to play in the Heroes versus Villains style, which is, a plus for every single person that's going to watch the show, because she's going to play great. I think that Micronesia was transformative, especially after watching Micronesia. Compare Cook Islands Parvati to Micronesia Parvati. Like, I think Micronesia was the transformation. Like, she went from, flirty character on the show to winner. So, I mean, I think that after that happened, like, anything past Micronesia, Parvati's going to play the same way. She's going to play like a pro. So I think she's going to be really exciting in the season coming up in 40. But that's my opinion from seeing, like, Cook Islands is a great example. Like, watching her in Cook Islands versus Micronesia versus Heroes versus Villains, there's a whole arc there, and the transformation was Micronesia.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm going to be curious, like, everybody's going to perceive her as like the biggest female threat on the island.
Yeah.
If not,
Yeah.
maybe the second biggest threat if they view Sandra or maybe Kim or something like that. But she's going to be one of the top 3 female threats out there. But she has just like her life is so much different than where it was. And, you know, we saw Parvati play 13, 16, 20. It's like a 4-year span. We see her 3 times.
Yeah.
Now we haven't seen her in 10 years. Like, it's going to be, I'm curious to see how like the younger people, the Adam Kleins, Sophie Clarks, Michelle Fitzgerald, how they react to seeing Parvati, who's now like no longer kind of in that same role she was.
Right. I mean, that's my biggest thing for 40 is I'm really interested to see the new school players, see how they play, because they're going to be more hungry in a way. Like they haven't lived their whole life, and, you know, they have something to prove still in a lot of ways. You know, Parvati may change. Her personality may have changed since then, you know, starting a family, all that kind of stuff. I tend to not believe that, knowing Parvati like outside of the game. But we'll see. I'm curious to see.
So you're thinking that Parvati is going to be the same old Parvati?
I think she will. I mean, I'm, you know, you never know. Like I don't see Parvati every day. I think I haven't seen her in a long time actually, but just like seeing her, like her activity online and knowing kind of where she is at in her life and stuff, you know, I would assume she's going to be the same, but you never know.
Mm-hmm.
And go ahead, Alexa. You have something there?
I was just going to mention, because I kind of almost hope that we see that Parvati, because that's what we saw 10 years ago. And Phil and I have been talking about sort of the nostalgia of watching the older school players on 40 versus all of the new winners. Do you think that she will be drawn to the new winners because maybe she's had a target on her back from the older school seasons, or do you think she'll maybe stick with the group that she knows?
I think so. This is the whole like if, but what if, all this, like, you know, what's going to happen. It's going to be wild to see, you know, how this plays out. Honestly, I really think the new school, I've always been scared of the new school. Like the last couple seasons I've watched, like the Adam Kleins, you know, some of the other millennials on that season, like I'm super intimidated. And like more recently, like Gavin and I'm trying to remember her name. Oh crap. She looks like the Wendy's character from
Victoria.
Victoria, thank you. She looks like Wendy, like if you get a Wendy's Frosty, Victoria's on it. Like the new school players are so intimidating because they have no alliances, like no allegiance essentially to anybody. They've watched the game, they've grown up with the game, they're hungry, they're like excited to prove something. Like I consider myself like an old school player in that regard. Like I would want to team up with like a Big Tom and a Lex and a Rob, like instead of like an Adam Klein or like these other loose cannon, incredibly intimidating like players and winners. So, I mean, I could see Parvati going either way. She's on the fence because she is a really great player, but she kind of is an old school player at this point, given, you know, what's transpired the last couple seasons. So she's like right on the fence. I would love for her to play the new school players, like really, you know, show them up at their own game, because I think she could do that. But at the same time, she may decide, you know, these guys I could team up with and, you know, turn it on its head and take out all the old school players, like a Kobe. Like we kind of saw Kobe, I think, in Heroes versus Villains kind of fell into that category of like an old school player that couldn't keep up.
Yeah.
No offense to Kobe, like he's great, but
yeah, but it's true. I mean, because he was, you know, Captain America back in Australia, and everybody wanted to be Colby, and then he comes out for Heroes versus Villains, and in the physical aspect of the game, Coach destroys him right off the bat.
Right.
And so I totally understand what you're saying. You know, when you look at some of the older seasons, there was a lot of like, let's get our friends to the end. This is our alliance, and this is who we're going with to the end. I mean, in Micronesia, it's Amanda, Parvati, and Sari because they're friends and because they got along, and it was like, let's get to the end together. Nowadays, you see Adam do it where it's like, Jay, if you get to the end, you're going to beat me, and I can't let that happen. So I need to cut you at 6 because there's no way I can let you get any closer than that.
Right. In a lot of ways, it's like College Survivor. If you guys have watched any of the College Survivor, they're having conversations that are really like blunt and real and upfront, and there's like almost like a deadpan emotion of like, you know, we're friends, but this isn't, you know, it's not about that. Everybody knows what's going on. Like this is not a friendship. So that's what's actually really scary, like that lack of emotion in a way, because you have no angle. Like I can't talk Adam into keeping me if he decides like it's not part of his alliance, you know, it's not part of his strategy of the 5 people he has. So it's like, what can you do? You can only do strategic things at that point.
And think a lot of that has come from like idols and advantages and things like that, where you're already thinking ahead to like, if I don't cut this person now, they're going to be here too long. They're going to have more time to find stuff. And then I'm going to be screwed. So I have to do it now. So yeah, I mean, I hear like the strategy has just evolved so much. Somebody like Parvati, who is considered one of the best, has not played in so many, like she was never even there when Redemption Island existed. Like that's how long ago she played, which is kind of like a crazy thing to think, because now we just watched a winner win who was voted out of Survivor. And back when Parvati was winning, nobody even thought that that would ever be possible.
Yeah. It is weird. It's like I think you're right. I think the idols have a lot to do with that. I think the more recent seasons are heavy on the strategy and the unpredictability and all that other stuff.
Yeah. Right. And this will be a fun kind of or interesting combination of both of those conversations, because realistically, as much as so many people think that this may be a back to basics season, I think they're going to be throwing the kitchen sink at this group. But this is a group that knows each other really well. This is a group that some of these players, like Ethan, for example, he's the the earliest winner here. He's probably met that entire group, and that's not to speak of any previous alliances, but there's already just a relationship there. So that kind of personal aspect is already going to be a part before they even hit the beach. There
almost needs to be like a pre-show that breaks down relationships outside the game. Like we need somebody like almost like you guys, what you're doing now, interviewing people outside of the game to say who has relationships with who outside of this, because that brings so much more to the story as well. Like, a lot of people reference, heroes versus villains, with Sugar being out first, and there's all this whole story with Sugar and her relationships before Heroes versus Villains, which led to her being voted out first. So it's like there's all kinds of unwritten stuff that never makes it to the show that happens that a casual fan wouldn't care about, but people who are big fans of the show would like, oh, that gives so much more depth to that season when you know that fact.
Yeah, and I think that's like a great CBS All Access thing too, if CBS was trying to do it, because I think it's weird how there are seasons where it's almost like ignored that these people clearly had a relationship from a previous season. I mean, even in Heroes, Healers, Hustlers, they were kind of trying to hide the fact that Patrick and Allie had a relationship before the game. Right. But also, like, if you tell us that beforehand, they try to like hide it in the edit that could possibly be a reason, when it's like, just tell us that. It actually makes it more interesting.
Right. And especially with, there's so many people on Twitter and there's so much activity there from past and current survivors. Like people could go back to like, to me, it's a marketing thing. It's a really good decision to be made. Like it gives you more, I guess, immersion in who's, participating in this game.
Yeah. I have an entire list that's actually right here that I always look at when we do these podcasts, and it says who everybody is connected to, who they played with,
like a spider web.
Like if I think they've dated, if I think that they've like hung out, I got it all just written down right here, because I do think that's going to have a big impact on season. Like you can't tell me that we're going to go into season 40 and it's going to be this pure like, oh, game starts on day one. Like no.
Right. I hate. So I've been on a previous season where people tried to make pre-game alliances, and I hate pre-game alliances in a lot of ways. I think that it's actually a good setup for you to like shoot yourself in the foot. I think it goes against the spirit of it too, because you don't really know, everything shuffles so much. I can't promise you final two if I've never met you really. Like that's another thing. But just there's so much outside of like the actual once it's day one hit the beach kind of stuff that is super interesting that I would love to see more taken more seriously, I guess, by CBS, but they only have so much bandwidth and there's only so much of a narrative you can spin.
Right.
So instead everybody's just going to be stuck with us talking to former survivors about
Phil, I think that's
you guys fill the gap.
I think we should do a little like spider web of who knows who.
Oh my God, we could.
That's a good idea, Eric. Thank you.
So you guys will be, I'll be, maybe I'm cast on a future season and you guys somehow hear about it and I'll go out and you guys are digging through my trash. And my wife is like, who's digging through our trash? And I'm like, oh, it's a specialist. Don't worry about it.
Don't worry about them. I gave them permission before I flew out. It's all good. No, but to go based off of this, Parvati's coming out there with, again, one of the biggest targets ever.
Yep.
Do you think that she's going to be able to overcome that target yet again? Or do you think she's in a lot more trouble this time just because of who she is?
She's so sociable. She's so good at making those connections and communication. I think someone's going to see her as an ally instead of an enemy right away. I think that's kind of what happened, Heroes versus Villains with Russell, thinking he can play her, which is, that's Russell's problem. But, she's really good at what she does, and Micronesia solidified that, and Heroes versus Villains only showed that even more. And the fact that she did so well on Heroes versus Villains gives her, in my book, 5 stars going into another all-star season, because she's dealt with big egos and past winners and, players that are really good at what they do. It's the only curveball I really foresee are kind of the wild cards, like, Tony and some of these other players who are who knows what they're like. Some people go in it, they're there to win no matter what. Some people are just there to cause trouble, just burn the forest down. So what do you do about somebody who wants to burn the forest down? If you can utilize them, she might pull somebody in like that. But I don't see her going before the merge. I see her, making it deep into the game.
Alexa and I have said this before, where the thing with Parvati's game is, even when she was even her first time out, when it's the most forgettable Parvati performance, she gets 6th place. Then she wins, and then she gets 2nd. And it's everybody always seems to let her hang on. And once she hits the merge, Parvati can just go right to the end again every single time, just because of the way she plays. You're talking about the alliances she's had. Her alliances in every season, she does not align with similar type people.
No.
Russell.
But she has right. She has this ability to there's this strategic element going on, but you never see it. At least in my experience in Micronesia, this came up. But I've heard this from other people too, where she has this strategic element going on in the background, but she has such a front and such a appearance in a way. I wouldn't say it was a facade, because I don't think it's fake. I do think it's authentic. She has this appearance of very sociable, very friendly, very accommodating, and it makes you feel, this is somebody I can work with. This is an ally, even if she is, thinking of, cutting you off with the kneecap or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
She wouldn't do that. That's more of a Sandra thing. But
yeah, who do you think is most likely to see her as an ally out here? Who do you think that Parvati's gonna be able to work her magic on?
Could be anybody, honestly. The only people I don't see her, I could see her working her magic on Adam and some of the younger guys, and working with Wendell and working with Nick. I could see her working with all of them. I could see her working, honestly, anybody. She, like you said, she kind of gels with anybody. The only thing that she would run into a problem is if somebody has it out for her, if somebody has a vendetta against her, and I don't know what relationship or prior relationship would do that. So I just see her in a good position, no matter how it shakes out. She's part of the Survivor canon, and all these people are fans. They're going to want to work with Parvati.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I actually think that she will be drawn to the newer winners, and I think they'll be drawn to her too. I think because I'm thinking if I'm out there, it's not even a sense of being starstruck or just being a gigantic fan, but what did she average 4th place? Is that the math we did? And if you're with her, she'll take you far. So I think she could, kind of like you mentioned, she may play Heroes versus Villains, where she could have a tough start because of who she is. But the good thing is, if she's on a tribe with Sandra's a big name. She's on a tribe with Rob. There's plenty of other gigantic names right there with her. So maybe she can just blend in.
Yeah. That's the thing. That's the biggest thing people don't realize on all-star seasons, is that there's huge egos all jostling for the biggest, the crown in a way. And so subtle players do well. I totally attribute Cochran's success on Karamoan to, he was a subtle winner. He didn't play a crazy aggressive game. He played a good game, but he played it low key enough that all these bigger players like a Phillip and a Malcolm and Dawn, who wanted to be a big player, all crashed into each other on their way to the finish line.
Yeah, and even your edit in that season, it's you and Brenda, you're both playing so under the radar that you're going far, while like you said, Malcolm getting booted, Phillip going home, because it's just two in your face. Corinne, I mean, she was another one. It's just so in your face all the time. It's hard to turn it off. I think the people who can turn it off are going to do very well on this season. It's just a matter of,
I think so too.
who are those people going to be?
If I had to guess, knowing Parvati and knowing some of the other cast out there, I have my thought is somebody's going to win who has a lot of prior connections. So like somebody like Parvati, who they have so many connections that the numbers are just too in their favor that they're just going to have enough advantages and they're going to have enough control to make it to the end. Or it's going to be somebody who is a one-off winner. So somebody like Danny Boatwright, or like a low-key one-off winner that's going to just somehow squeak by to the end because, just because they're just going to be able to do their magic and win. Like I could see Kim going all the way to the end, like as a one-off. So those are my two theories. They're either going to have a ton of connections and they're just going to happen to make it to the end and they're going to burn some relationships along the way. Or it's going to be a one-off person that just gets to the end somehow, squeaks by.
Yeah. I'm personally thinking the one-offs are going to do better than the people with a lot of connections. Cause I think I worry my biggest worry for Parvati is Boston Rob probably isn't going to want to work with Parvati. Maybe he does, maybe he doesn't, but it didn't in Heroes Villains, they didn't really get along. But also, nobody's going to listen to Boston Rob. And then she's got Yule and
Yule. Right.
Is that going to be good for her or is that going to be bad for her?
I don't she's changed so much. I mean, it's got to be water under the bridge at this point, but
so that's where
it's very neutral for her, the Yule relationship.
Yeah.
Because I'm sure I don't know how much they've kept in touch, but like you said, Eric, it's probably water under the bridge at this point. They both have moved on so very much in their lives.
You have 1 million, I have 1 million.
It worked out.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because I just wonder, with these people who have connections like that, it's do you have too many connections? Where does Boston Rob say, I want to beat Parvati this time? I'm tired of Parvati beating me, or I don't want to lose to Sandra again. And does Tyson say something similar? Whereas these one-off people, it's I won once, I'll just play the same game again and try to win again.
Yep.
Huh.
I was thinking about that too.
Denise, for example.
Right.
Denise or Kim, like you guys mentioned earlier, they both won in their specific way. There's no reason to rock that boat because they never have an opportunity to see how they could lose.
Right. Right. So in the connection thing could become a huge threat. As a winner, as a one-off winner, you could get together with all the other one-off winners and say, hey, Parvati has way too many connections. She's way too social of a player. She has way too many connections. All of us people who are kind of floating out there, we don't have any connections, but together we can outnumber the people with numbers, because there might be a web. And that's what happened in Micronesia. Day one, the favorites tribe had immediately some webs formed instantly, because they knew that they needed that to go on to get themselves to where they needed to be, while the fans are kind of bumbling around and failing at doing anything. So it's that's probably going to happen very, very shortly in the first episode. Is you're going to see immediately alliance webs form, and they may decide Parvati has too many connections already.
And I wonder if they do kind of like what happened in the Blood versus Water seasons, where a lot came down to, well, your loved one's not here. So the pairs are going to try to vote out the ones with loved ones. And I wonder if that will become a thing, because I do think that in terms of one-off winners, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. I think we have 10 one-off winners.
Yeah. Half.
So half.
Yeah. So half of them are one. Well, yeah, that's pretty crazy. Yeah. I mean,
that's a lot of variables.
Yeah. So that could definitely be something that comes into effect. I don't know. I hope you're right about Parvati, because with Boston Rob and Sandra, I'm not excited to watch them in 40 because we're about to watch them in 39, or we just watched them in 39.
Year's worth of them.
Yeah.
Right.
So I don't care, but Parvati, I was never the biggest Parvati fan. I mean, I told you this, I rooted for you to win in Micronesia, and then Parvati beats you. So of course I'm not happy about that. In Heroes Villains, I was everybody else I just loved way more than Parvati. Okay. So, but now I'm so excited to watch Parvati play again that I'm please don't send her out 15th or 14th. I want her hitting the merge. I want to see her starting to form. She's got plenty of people that she can start to like you said, Adam. I could definitely see Adam thinking I will never be susceptible to Parvati's charm, and then just boom, done.
Instantaneously.
Yeah.
Right. That's the thing. They don't understand. They don't understand that she's good. You feel good you can have interactions with her and feel good about it, and then before you know it, you're pulled into something that you have no idea. You have no idea what's going on. And she played one of the most amazing seasons, Heroes versus Villains, strategically best season ever, in my opinion, many people's opinion. So like she's been tested on multiple occasions on stuff. So do not underestimate her. I don't think she's going to do bad. I don't think she won't. The only way she wouldn't do bad is if she's changed so much from, her life and, she's, maybe she's moved on in some way. I can't imagine that though, especially because she's been doing, she's done interviews and stuff with Jeff Probst since then, and she's done her own stuff. I think she still has that fire. So I think she's going to be fine.
Alexa, ask the all-important question. Not the second one, just ask the first one, because it definitely goes off of that.
The first, so you already sort of half answered the first one. So one question that you've been asking everybody is, how do you think Parvati is going to place? And I know you mentioned that she, at the very least, will probably make the merge.
Yeah.
You can be as generic as family visit, as specific as fourth place. What do you think?
If she makes it past the merge, she'll get to the finals, I think.
Like final three.
Yeah, like finals. I think she will. And I think she will because, it's Parvati's first, or she's, makes it to the end. If people think, oh, she's a snake, we can't trust her. But, Micronesia, that, you see that play out. Heroes versus villains, you see her make it to the end too. She's either going to get out real early because people are going to wake up and realize, oh crap, Parvati's really good at this, we have to get rid of her. Or she's going to ingrain herself, burrow in like a tick and just hang on until the end. That's my thought.
Giving me flashbacks to Lyme disease, Eric. Thanks.
What a comparison. I love it.
No, so you're thinking she gets to the end, and I kind of agree. I have this thing with Amber and Parvati on this season, where if they get past like the first swap and they get onto like one of those tribes where like, the Joey Amazing tribe where Julie Rosenberg can't go home until day 22.
Yes.
It's first time she's even like able to go home. I think that they go because this is a season where it's impossible to say, well, that person's not like, oh, Parvati's always going to be the biggest threat. There's no way to get rid of every threat before the merge. So you're going to have your a Tony or a Tyson or a Wendell or a Nick who's going to be there at the merge. You're going to have on the female side, Kim or Denise or Natalie Anderson. They're all going to be there. And people like Parvati and Amber might be able to just be like, all right, like go and get rid of them because they're playing too aggressively and we don't need to do that.
Right. They're and that's the thing. Parvati's, her threat level is so low because most people think of her as an ally. She's more of a, if I have a problem and my problem is Tony, I go to Parvati and I say, hey, Parvati, help me get out Tony. Because Parvati, I know, can help me get out Tony. She can make the connections to do that. So that's why Parvati makes it so deep, because people see her as a problem solver instead of a problem.
That's a great way to put it. I never thought of it that way.
And that's what you do. Like that's what you do with Dawn. Like Dawn and Caramoan, that's all that happened with Dawn. Dawn literally was like she, in a lot of ways, like a mob boss. It's like, we hate Philip. Everybody hates Philip. Philip is this like huge, everybody's attacking Philip at once. Dawn needed Philip to be around in a lot of ways. So she kind of kept him around, but nobody kind of realized that was going on. And then Malcolm got rid of him. And then finally it was like a bunch of people were like, we got to get rid of Malcolm. Malcolm's a threat. And Dawn's like, we'll make the connections. We'll get rid of Malcolm.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like, that's what it is. And Parvati is so social. It's that sociable aspect. And I think Jeff Probst said this recently in that EW interview thing. He mentioned that it's always been a social game, and people who fail to recognize the social game will go home. They just can't. Like, if you're not friends with somebody, you don't think you can trust them at least a little bit, you're going to think they're a threat instead of some way to help.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Which I think that somebody like a Tony is going to have a hard time with that. Boston Rob, even Sandra, like people have seen it so many times now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like Boston.
Okay.
Go ahead. No, go ahead.
I'm kind of steering away. I was saying you guys are actually selling me a lot more on her. I'm a big Parvati fan, but I really did not think that she was going to make it past the third tribal council. But to your point about her being a problem solver, she's going to walk on this beach knowing exactly how much people will or will not want to get rid of her. So I think she'll be able to recognize her gigantic threat level and can kind of propose herself as like, either use me or use me to get out the person that you need. Yeah, you actually want to get out. And then all of a sudden she'll be at the final four fire making, like in an instant.
The only problem I foresee with that is, and I just thought of this, is like somebody like Kim in there. Kim was kind of a problem solver too. Mm-hmm. It's different lanes. So if someone's in your lane you feel competition to get them out. So if there's anybody else who fills the role of Parvati as the problem solver, like they're a strategic threat, but they're also really nice and they're personable and they're problem solver. You don't want that same kind of role around. And, so that may be, you may see little things pop up like that just blow up over the course of like an afternoon. Because we see that all the time where it's like, it's a done deal. We're voting out, this poor sap over here. And then maybe 20 minutes later, there's 2 conversations. And somebody's like, oh, I don't like what Becky said because Becky's doing what I'm trying to do. So I'm going to get out effing Becky. So maybe Becky, you'll get mad that Parvati's there and doing the same thing, or they're in the same role. So that's something I could see bubble up out of the blue, but Parvati's so savvy, she usually knows what's going on with that.
And with Kim always is like, well, when Kim played in One World, it seemed like Kim was aligned, but Kim was the biggest personality player in that group. Everybody else was there, and they had their own thing, but Kim was always the face of that alliance. Parvati's never really the face of it. Like I would even think in Micronesia, like Amanda might have been more of the face of it than Parvati was, and in Heroes Villains, it was definitely Russell. So I think if she can find her Russell or Amanda, then it's like, well, Parvati's not as threatening as Blank. Blank goes home. Parvati ends up winning Final 3 or something.
Look at Kim. Kim kept Chelsea around. I think Chelsea was like the enforcer of Kim's, season. So Chelsea was there, and she was super physical in most of those challenges and stuff, but she wasn't necessarily the brains. Like her and Kim would get along and talk and stuff, but it's kind of that mentality of you can't get to the end by yourself, like no matter how good you are at this. So you do want to keep someone around that's, like a Russell. Like they're not necessarily a GOAT, but they're so abrasive, or that you can beat them in some certain aspect, but at the same time use them. So it's complicated, guys.
It's these returnee seasons are so complicated. And it's crazy. Like you played the fans versus favorites on both sides of it. So like you never got to just play like the regular Survivor or the returnees. You were always like, there was always something extra going on your seasons. Yeah.
It literally was like most of the time I showed up and I was like, oh God, like this is like you want a regular season and just never got it. Like coming in on the boat and fans versus favorites, and then we looking over and Mikey B is like, Yo Man's over there and Ozzy's over there. I can see him. And I'm like, oh geez, what is this? And then the second one, we come in and we get the helicopter treatment, and we come in and there's freaking Philip in the helicopter. Like I kind of knew it was going to be a fans versus favorites because there's only 10 of us. But then I see like Philip's with me. And I'm like, oh geez, Philip's freaking here. And so some more, and Brandon's there. Yeah. It's like, I can't just get a normal go of it. Like I just want to hang out with like Rick Devens or something.
That's too much to ask for. I mean, I do love that. Like what you came out for the 37 finale, they like invited you back, and it's like, why couldn't I have just been on like even 37? It's like, on 37? You're so normal. Like every one of those people is pretty damn normal.
Yeah.
No, you get the crazies, Eric. That's
I'll get the next one. We'll get 40, 42 something.
Yeah. Maybe you can hang out with you can hang out with Rick then.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. You'll have a really normal favorites tribe, but the fans will be absolutely psychotic.
Totally insane. Yeah, parolees versus favorites or something.
Yeah.
He did a hard time, and he's here to redeem himself for his family. I'm like he has like he has raindrop tattoos on his face and stuff. He lost a friend in prison, and I'm like, oh.
I hope that CBS is listening to this and taking this as a serious pitch, and you're about to get a phone call. That's what I hope happens,
this is going to happen. I guarantee it.
Great. I don't want
it. You're gonna forget when we finally release this in like 5 months, and then you're gonna get a phone call, and it's gonna be like, "Oh, Eric, by the way, we just dropped your video, and CBS is trying to get in touch with you."
I'll take anything I can get.
There you go.
Take the credit.
Alexa, the other question.
All right, other question. Other than, so you can't pick Parvati for this. Who do you think is going to win?
Win? Oh God.
I know. We're asking you this. It is June 30th. We are currently recording.
I think technically day 40.
Yeah.
Yeah.
40. I'm trying to think. I'll try and feel this one out because I'm terrible at guessing.
We can talk through this. We can make a conversation out of this.
For me, it's like I know who can't win. Like I know who absolutely won't win. Like from what I think will happen. I have picks that won't win or won't get it, to a certain point in it. I had to guess somebody to win, it's going to be somebody who's a one-off. It's going to be one of those one-off winners. I really think that that's going to be the person who wins.
I think you're right.
Sanders not going to win. I just don't think
No.
Sanders.
No,
gonna
Sanders. I have
I just
Sandra
don't
in
think
20th
so.
place.
Yeah,
Sandra
I just
and her
don't think so.
statue are going to be sent on that pre-Jerry
Yeah,
trip.
I just don't see her winning. You know, letting her win. In terms of a one-off, I think even somebody like Danny Boatwright could win.
I think she
Like,
might win too.
Somebody coming out of because the element of surprise with somebody who's a one-off winner will just, you don't know what you're going to get. Like, what you're going to get with somebody who's been on another season before, or played multiple times. You know what you're going to get. You know what you're in for in a lot of ways. It's got to be a one-off winner. I just don't know who. I'm going to say Kim, just for sake of argument. I'm going to say Kim's going to win, but it's going to be a one-off winner if I had to bet. If I had to bet money, I would bet a spread across maybe like 5 of those 10.
And it sounds like you're leaning towards the women out of those one-off winners.
Yeah, I think so too. I think men have a harder time in returnee seasons, and I think that's because of a multitude of reasons. I think that it's not necessarily physical players that win all-star seasons. I could be wrong if somebody wants to check the books. But I think they're they're very strategic and very social seasons. So I would have a preference for a woman winning over a man.
Yeah.
And I think Kim makes sense. I know because she's someone who was a gigantic threat in her season. And I know she's playing with a very different group of people than she did in One World. But I think like the appeal of Kim, or what's so good about her game, is that she can somehow make herself not seem like an immunity idle threat, immunity challenge threat, social threat. Somehow she just appears to not be that, even though
lowers
she
her target. She lowers her target.
It's really amazing.
Yeah, her and Denise. Like, Denise is an awesome person. I've had the chance to meet Denise at the Give Kids the World event a few times, and she's awesome, and everything Malcolm said about her is awesome. And I think that she's a genuine, cool person. And I think she also is really strategic, and she could come out of nowhere and win too.
I think she's shaped up really well to win, just because her strategy was to align with somebody nobody would expect her to align with, which was Malcolm. She got along really well with the younger guy. This season has a lot of those young, like Adam, Nick. I mean, Wendell. Yeah, I was going to say it sounds crazy, but I think Wendell fits in there.
Yeah.
And so I think that Denise is going to be able to find somebody who's willing to just align with Denise as strongly as Malcolm did and ride it all the way to the end. And she'll probably cut them just like she did to Malcolm right when she can.
Yeah.
So.
And that's good. That's a good, those players have huge targets too. Like if I was on a season and me and Adam had a dialogue, I'd be like, yeah, let's team up with Adam because he's not going to win. And it's not necessarily saying he's a bad player. I think he's a good player, but his target's too big. Especially if he's going to play aggressively and he's going to play a new school game with, majority old school players. Like Boston Rob probably won't get along with Adam.
No,
I don't. I don't envision that alliance happening.
I don't think Ethan. I think Ethan and Rob on day one will get along. Like some of the old school winners will get along great because they're just, they're a different breed, or they'll realize really quickly, this new breed of player is so quick and, manipulative in a lot of ways that we have to get rid of them. I don't know if they're aware of that.
Yeah. And it is now that we're talking about it, it is those, I can't believe I'm about to say middle school players, the Kim, the Denise, the Natalie Anderson that can really kind of go either way.
Sophie Clark.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, because I think it's weird with the stretch of 31 to 37 with every winner being there. I don't know if they're all going to align or if they're going to get into their own little feud of I'm actually the best player from the 30s. I'm the best winner. And do they get into their own heads with that, or do they all just align? And now you have an alliance of 8 that can just take out anybody.
Right. This is the thing that boggles my mind is I've always thought that a returning player season is better than an all-winner season, because winners I would feel are not as hungry to win as somebody who played, got really far, and lost. And I feel like a winner season, you're going to have winners that don't necessarily care how they do. They're just kind of there because it's they're okay, CBS wants me to play this game. I'm not hungry. I don't care if I win. I already won. I already got the experience of it. So why would they play again? So unless you have an ego, somebody who is ego tripping, who wants to like Russell would be, if Russell did win, he would still come back and play because he's so crazy about like wanting to destroy the game and like dominate the game. Like Rob is one of those characters too. Like Boston Rob is, I think he's going to come back and do really well, or have that kind of mentality of like destroy the game. I see that in Adam. I see that I think Wendell would do that as well, would exhibit that characteristic. Yeah.
Yeah, I like that. I think that's true. I think that the winners, I think it has to be all winners though. That the only way that the winners are going to be ultra competitive is if it's with all winners. Because I think, like on those like game changers, like Tony's coming out there like, well, I need to prove myself here and I need to do the same shtick. But also like if I go home in 19th, I go home in 19th. Like who cares? I've already won, So I'm very curious to see how this will play out. If there are going to be some of those people who are just like, this isn't worth it to me. Like if there was like an edge of extinction, would they be like, oh, I just want to go home? Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, because it's not their one shot.
That's the thing. They would. I think if you did Edge of Extinction with returning players, you'd see a lot more people raise the flag.
Mm-hmm. That's interesting. And I think with the winners, especially just because there's so many.
Right.
Like what does Amber have to prove? She gets voted out first. It's
right.
Like, I'm just going to go home.
Right. They've already done it. They've already in a way beaten the experience. So you kind of need that edge, that push to say, I have a legacy to, create or generate or whatever.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I would have wanted, if I could be revisionist history, I would put Tom Westman on this season.
He would have been good.
We have a lot.
I think so too.
Especially on the male side. I think Tom would have been great. I really wish Chris Doherty would have gotten a chance. I love him.
Yep.
And we were talking to Fairplay, and it's like, I kind of wish Brian Heidick would have like at least been like asked, because he played, he's the Iceman. He played that ridiculous game. And like, could he do that in season 40? I don't think so, but I'd love to watch it.
Right. Like really eccentric winners. Well, I guess he's one of the eccentric winners, but I would have loved to see that too. I would love Earl Cole to come back.
I know.
Too.
I loved Earl.
There's so many that are like, I'm happy with what we have. Like Yule. When I saw Yule, I was like blown away. Like, like no way. Some of them. And the other thing too is like some of these, I'm really interested to see like Danny come back, because we don't really know where she's at, like compared to her last season. So like, I haven't heard anything about her, and she hasn't been at any of the events or anything. So I have no idea, like, where is she at? How is she going to do? So, yeah,
I'm super excited for Danny. I'm super excited for a lot of these old school. I'm really excited for Ethan.
Yeah,
but
Ethan
like,
too.
I do agree with you. Like, I like Ben. I like Wendell. Like, I really like Adam. But if you would have told me like Chris Doherty's going to come back, I'd be like, all right, like you can get rid of one of the newer. Like we just watched these people win, and I know that like Nick Wilson's probably going to play more than just this time. He's going to play a third time.
Right.
Wendell's probably going to play a third time.
Right.
But like Yule, we're never going to see Yule again.
Yeah, and Chris, we would never see Tom Westman. I mean, even just getting him back for Heroes Villains was an insane accomplishment.
Right. Yeah, I agree.
I agree with you on that.
What was that? Sure. There was one more one. God, I can't think of it now. I'll think of it later.
When you're off, and then it's just like, tweet it out, like
I mean, even Tina and Richard, that to me, that's
people were
shocking.
I saw people bugged about that, like Richard's not coming back, and they're like, Richard's over.
Yeah, I guess it's just the fact that it's the first two that aren't there seems odd. Or your first male and your first male and female.
I've met Richard a few times. He's really awesome. He's like the coolest guy. He's super nice. He's super interested still in Survivor. His life story is incredible in terms of like what occurred after Survivor, and his story, like meeting his boyfriend and all the other things that have happened in his life. I see Richard as somebody who's like, his life has moved on past Survivor in so many ways that I don't know if necessarily he would come back as one of those strategic players that wants to like dominate the game. Like he would be more of a Tony, like he would just mess with people for the fun of it. Like he's not there to win the $1 million. He's already proven, a lot of stuff about himself in the medium of that is Survivor. So he would just have fun with it. Like, I think he would just run around naked and like knock the shelter over and like dump water out and like, just, do Richard stuff like he did on All Stars.
Right.
But he bit a shark. He bit a shark, and
which could be that fun.
Yeah, that's the thing. He and I don't know if CBS necessarily wants that, or if the fan base necessarily wants somebody on a season of All Winners that's doesn't care about winning. I don't know if that's every cast needs that, but
was Todd one of the ones who you were forgetting? Because I knew
Todd,
you said there's maybe one person.
Yeah,
Todd is someone I'd really like to say.
I would love to see him too. And it's funny because Ethan and Todd I see too, like Richard, like outside of Survivor, like they have these crazy things happen in their life that have changed them. Like Parvati has a lot of stuff that's happened in her life that's awesome and has changed her. Let's see how she plays, like how your excitement was, when we first started this call. But like Ethan, he had all his stuff with cancer and he had dated Jenna Maraska for some time. I can't remember if they were married or not, but I know that they were together for some time.
I don't think they ever got married. I
think they were just together. But he's had his whole dramas with all of the cancer stuff and with that, and he's coming back. So I'm excited to see him following, like, how has he changed and learned from that? And then the same thing with Todd. Like, we know Todd has had his experiences and he's been on Dr. Phil a couple times. And I've seen Todd a few times at the Give Kids the World event in Florida. And just to see him come back and play again after, China, which was years ago, would be great too.
I totally agree. I agree. They should have just made this cast like 30 people.
Cast.
Yeah. I wouldn't mind. I wouldn't mind a 30-person cast, and then like day 2 they cut it in some huge way.
Yeah, they kind of do like a Palau thing.
Yeah,
like right off the bat.
Yeah, I honestly thought that's what they're going to do for 40. They're just going to cast like 50 people, and then in day 2 they cut 20 people or something.
Wow.
I think the winners would lose their minds if like 10 of them went home on day 2. I think they'd kill someone.
Yeah. For some of for the ones who hadn't been a part of the community and just kind of like, if that happens to Yule, that's like, what the hell is going on?
He'd be like, how dare you?
How could you possibly do this to me?
Yeah. Anyway.
Yeah.
Well, do you have any last things you want to say here about Parvati, Eric? Are you feeling good? Or
I think she's going to do great. I think that people underestimate her because she is so good at, she's authentic. That's her big pull. She's really authentic. She doesn't feel like she's trying to like create some relationship with you for the purpose of like gaining something. She actually is, authentic. And I think that's her biggest strength.
Yeah. There you go. So I had Parvati getting 18th place originally, and now after listening to this, I'm going to move her up a lot.
Okay. Well, we'll see. I may eat my words. It's all speculation, so who knows?
Yeah, but you've been very convincing.
yeah, that was very convincing.
I'm an ENTP. If you guys know Myers-Briggs test, ENTPs are natural debaters. Like I look up to Weird Al Yankovic. I like to parody. I can argue any point until the end of the earth, even if I don't believe in the point. But I do believe in this point. So that's my thought on it, but obviously it can go any way. But I'm naturally a debater. I would actually love to have you guys on a call on YouTube in like a couple more weeks. I want to ask you guys a question because a fan brought up a really weird, interesting Survivor idea about alliances a long time ago, but I'll email you guys about it and we'll talk later.
I'm very excited about this.
Very
excited. Also, anybody who's listening to this in December, it happened already. But I'm very excited.
Okay. We already did it.
Okay.
But I'm very excited about that.
Yeah.
If you guys timelines are fun.
Okay. Yeah. It's all time. Things will change from now to then.
Yeah. It's going to be Eric just telling Alexa and I that like, no, your point's wrong. He's a natural
invalid.
All right. That'd be fun. Yeah. Let us know. We'd love to figure it out.
All right. Cool.
Alexa, take us home. I guess Alexa, take us home, right? I mean, Eric, it's like 31, 30,
Your time limit. Don't want to mess up your time.
You're fine.
So yeah, for those of you who are listening in, I guess it's January right now, even though I'm wearing a tank top, it's 90 degrees in New York City right now. We have, keep following us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. There might be a cool new social media at this point, in which case we already have an account and are verified on it. Keep hitting subscribe on YouTube, listen to us on iTunes, Spotify, whatever you guys are into. Make sure to become a patron. Go to patreon.com/Survivor Specialists. Again, we probably give you a lot of really cool content. We just don't know what it is yet.
Did you hear? Did you see Eric just told us?
Yeah, exactly. That'll be it. So thank you, Eric, for coming on. We're really excited to hopefully talk to you in a few weeks and hope you all have a great night.
Cool. Thanks.